Howdy folks, in this video we're going to talk about the beloved story of Naruto. And as always on this channel, we'll talk about the imagined built environment and how it helps shape that story. And today that shape looks like a bridge. So we've jumped around different anime and media recently, and today's discussion is a little different. See, the built environment of Masashi Kishimoto's Naruto is not well expanded or even really explored within the manga, which is a bit of a shame if you ask me, a structural engineer, since there can be so much brilliant world building done that way. But Kishimoto opted for a different method of expanding upon his world, and that's by creating hyper-effective interpersonal relationships and developing a brilliant world of ninjutsu, chakra, and good old-fashioned beatdowns. It is a battle shonen after all. While we've been a little spoiled recently on the channel by the high that is the world building of One Piece, where Oda dazzled us with impossible settings and panels of descriptions, and we'll return to it at some point, there's just so much fantasy architecture to explore, and I can't leave my boy hanging. Before going much further, I'll note that I'm assuming if you clicked on this video, you know at least a little bit about the story, so I won't go too deep into the background. But if you're not familiar, hopefully the broad strokes I've painted are enough. So with all that waffle out of the way, let's talk about the Bridges of Naruto. The first relevant subject is encountered during the first relevant mission of the series, escorting the bridge builder Tazuna back to the Land of Waves. As you may remember, the whole reason that Tazuna needed some real protection was because he was being targeted by the gangster Gato, who was worried that this bridge they were building would disrupt his trade routes. And after Team 7 fends off Zabuza the assassin the first time, we see their bridge, near completion, depicted in a few panels. And as a work of engineering, it's not very revolutionary. It seems to be a continuous, multi-span concrete bridge with slender, cylindrical masonry piers, presumably founded on the bedrock below, and that's a bit of a new one for me. Don't see those every day. The bridge deck spans maybe 30 to 50 feet between these piers and has a steel guardrail on each side. Additionally, we can see some formwork and rebar in this panel, some steel beams over here. All in all, it's not really exciting. Even during the second bout with Zabuza, we don't learn that much more about the pending bridge, and in fact its bridgeness isn't really acknowledged. At no point during the fights do we get the sense that someone might be thrown into the water below or that the connection it aims to facilitate is any more than a stated goal. At times it's easy to forget where we are and appears so vast that they might as well be in the Kamui dimension. But for all the lack of deep description, lofty design, or impact on the action, the bridge still runs wonderfully in parallel with another key aspect of the story, the role of bonds. And I mean the bond between Naruto and Sasuke that was so pivotal throughout the whole story. It's through this arc and culminating on this bridge that the young ninja duo's relationship was tested. From the outset, Naruto and Sasuke are pitted in competition with each other, where Naruto freezes in the face of the demon brothers, Sasuke battles to good effect. Later, when Kakashi is bound up in Zabuza's water prison jutsu, it's Naruto's ingenuity, paired with Sasuke's skill, that wins the day. Only a few chapters removed from Naruto's attempted kidnapping of his teammate, and we already see that their bond is taking shape. So it's only fitting that after a week of grueling training in the forest together and a heart-stopping battle on the bridge against Ice Boy Haku, that the shared animosity is born into mutual trust and care. And just so for Tazuna's bridge, which, saved by Team 7's actions, would foster better relations between the Land of Waves and the Land of Fire under the name the Great Naruto Bridge, and is a physical symbol of the shared commitments between the nations. I think that's a pleasant way of thinking about the boundary crossing infrastructure. I wonder if my English or French viewers think that way about the tunnel that crosses the English Channel. Now that I've brought it back to reality, I figured we can add some fun facts to the mix. As I noted, Tazuna's bridge ended up donning the name the Great Naruto Bridge, which actually exists. Not in the same masonry pier, continuous concrete structure, but it is one of the longest suspension bridges in the world, and it crosses the Naruto Strait. Even more interesting is that it's famous for overlooking whirlpools generated in the waters below. I wonder. So now's probably a good time to move on to the second subject of the video, the Tenchi Bridge. Here again, its importance is linked to a mission assigned to Team 7 later on in the series, soon after the time skip. And the team looks a little different this time, with Sasuke replaced by Sai and Yamato standing in for the team captain. Their goal in this mission is to impersonate an Akatsuki member and meet with a spy to gather some information on Orochimaru, their bridge being the meeting point. And just like with every Naruto mission, it's messed up right from the start. So to talk about the bridge itself, it's rather different from our first example in that it only has one span. It sort of arches rather than being laid horizontally and anchors itself on either side of a deep ravine, never really interfacing with the water below. At first when I saw it, I thought, yes, suspension bridge with the oddly straight cables tied to the deck. But unlike the Great Naruto Bridge, we actually get a lot of views of this one, as it's absolutely demolished during the ensuing fight. So let's use the play-by-play from that fight to break down the bridge. So Yamato's impersonation is seen through pretty easily, and when he's found out, he calls his reinforcements in. Naruto then begins to unravel in response to Orochimaru's taunts, and his Nine-Tails chakra leaks out, invigorating his first punch. The shot sends Orochimaru flying through the bridge's guardrail and taking out one of the suspended wires. The bridge here seems to creak and groan in response, and the other wire is shown to increase in tension, which is why at first I thought the system was perhaps a suspension bridge. But it still didn't totally make sense, with the bridge's suspended wires being nearly horizontal. See, in order for tension-only elements like a wire to pick up any substantial load, there needs to be a drape or a sag to the wire, which isn't really present in the few shots we see. And this suspicion is validated in the next scene when Orochimaru picks his head back up and returns to the bridge. Naruto lets loose some more of his Kyuubi chakra and begins to eat away at the bridge deck material itself, bending the nearby guardrails, even peeling off the nice red paint and snapping the other suspension wire. Even with all the lost material where Naruto's beastly chakra ate through the bridge, collapse was yet to be instigated. But finally, when Naruto turns himself into a ball of fire, the entire cross-section of the bridge at the center was demolished and the bridge begins to fall. Yamato props up their end in an attempt to save the unconscious Sakura, and we get a few more glimpses of the supposed structural system. The bridge deck, while it appears to have a wood veneer on the walking surface, seems to be an unreinforced concrete, well, except for the two huge tubes that run the length. This was an interesting find, as Kishimoto and his team seem to have put an additional reinforcing in their system. It, well, at least looks like a steel tube, and sure seems to be part of a structural system as opposed to a pipe bank for utility, since it does hold some of the fractured sections together. Now, that must be the tension reinforcement. And this isn't the only bridge in the series that features this sort of structural system. During Kakashi's Chronicles, we see Team Minato's target, the Kanabi Bridge, demolished with some of these elements. Although it's pretty often the case that arch bridges don't require reinforcing like this anyways, since their geometry can distribute loads, mostly in compression, back to the supports. Either way, it's a nice detail. So obviously with the Tenchi Bridge, there was a bit more to discuss as a structural system, since the location was, well, interacted with more than the Great Naruto Bridge, though it has less of a narrative significance, and the meetup point could have just about been any piece of the environment without changing the story almost at all. However, if you thought I forgot my bridges or bonds motif, you're wrong. The Tenchi Bridge arc actually continues that thread pretty well, in the same way that the completion of the Naruto Bridge is mimicked in the solidifying of Naruto and Sasuke's camaraderie. The destruction of the Tenchi Bridge mimics the opposite. For just a few chapters later, when we finally see Naruto and Sasuke reunite, the bonds that Sasuke claimed to have severed when he left the village 3 years ago are cut down once more. Sasuke raises a blade to stuns Naruto and attacks his former teammate, and if not for Orochimaru's intervention, it might have gone further. The relationship looks in no better shape than the recently crossed bridge, and I don't know if this interpretation was intended by Kishimoto, but I just found the parallel too glaring not to address, since the use of man-made settings was so sparse. Perhaps it's fitting then that in later chapters, Sasuke revisits the Land of Waves to look for Zabuza's sword, crossing the Great Naruto Bridge on his way. Anyways, thanks for watching with me all the way through. Please like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and any and all comments are appreciated at minimum for the algorithm's sake. As always, have a good day, and adios.